July should be the 7th month now. January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Okay, seventh month of the year. That being said, let's hop into the discourse. This is that part of the Eagles Morning Rise Breakfast Show where we bring to you the Eagles Outlook. Now, what is it about the Eagles Outlook? Eagles Outlook is basically our flagship political and current affairs probe show that allows for us to talk politics and current affairs and allows for you to get educated, get motivated, also add your 2 cents to what is going on within the national political discourse. I always love to say that the power is in the people and politics we address. My name is Udwak Daniel and we're looking at Nigeria's Cybercrimes Act harming journalists. Alright, so the topic is Nigeria's Cybercrimes Act harms journalists. Right, well in Nigeria though, the Cybercrimes Act has been a contentious issue, sparking debates about press freedom, free speech, and the role of government in regulating online activity. I mean, signing to law in 2015, the act aimed to combat cybercrimes, but its provisions have been criticized for being vague and openly abusive, right? It's been open to abuse. Right now, despite an amendment that came down in February of 2024, which was aimed at addressing some of these concerns, the arrest of journalists continues, raising questions about the government's commitments to press freedom. Now, what we are looking to do is to look at the timeline of some events, statistics, and some numerical values related to the Cybercrimes Act, highlighting the impact on journalists, media organizations, and the civil society groups. We will also try to look at some of the human angle questions, posing some critical, questions and seeking answers from various stakeholders. By this, we hope to draw on credible sources, including some articles as well, and quite a number of other sources right there. But there are some concerns right into this issue. Sometimes, Act in itself has some point of vagueness, right? Now, the Cybercrime Act has been criticized for its vague provisions. Now, it can be used to target, journalists and stifle press freedom and all of that. And there's another concern of arrests and detention of journalists where, despite the amendment, arrests and detentions of journalists continue, raising concerns about the government's commitments to press freedom. Yet another concern in that regard too would be the chilling effect on free speech, where the Cybercrimes Act has created a chilling effect on free speech as many Nigerians self-censor to avoid legal repercussions, right? And there's a lack of transparency and accountability where the government's implementation of the Cybercrimes Act lacks some transparency and accountability, leading to abuse of power and violation of human rights. And you might also want to consider yet another concern right there, which is the fact that the Cybercrimes Act has hit. So that is the bane of it. But I mean, there are other angles to this conversation, and one of such angles would be the place where I would love for us to look at where Nigeria is indeed placed, where exactly our share of the conversation, right, in terms of journalism and all of that. And how has the government been able to handle some of these issues? But just before we jump into that, let me introduce my guest, who will be joining us via phone call. He's in the person of Mr. Benedict Olaliko Agunloye, right? Mr. Benedict will be joining in this conversation today, and we will indeed have a great and robust conversation. If you also recall that some time ago, we've seen where journalists have been detained one way or the other, and in fact it had to call to the point where the Nigerian Union of Journalists and other persons have also come out to say, okay, free our journalists, let them go, let him have his liberty, or let her have his liberty, and all of that. Information professional, policy, and public affairs analyst indeed will allow for us to have this robust conversation. Welcome aboard and good morning to you. Happy New Month, Mr. Benedict Olaleko Agunloye. Hello?
Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you. All right, feels good to have you come. I mean, this conversation, first of all, let me also, applaud you for showing some great, will I say, solidarity, firstly, with the station, as well as, topical issues always being present, to have a discourse with us, even if it is at the toughest of times. Thank you, far too kind. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Right. Well, I mean, Mr. Benedict, it's no news anymore. We've seen, in recent times, we've seen quite a number of, if you like to call it castigation, if you like to call it holding against will, if you like to call it unlawful arrest of a journalist over time. And is it to take the case of Karaska Saraji Anyogolu, who was arrested on February 24th for allegedly spreading false information about a public figure, and the vagueness of the Cybercrimes Act leading to arbitrary arrest? Is it talking about the Salu Ayatollahi Anadisa Jaji Aziz, arrested on February as well, 2024, for reporting on a sensitive political issue, and the concern is suppression of free speech and political reporting? Is it Daily Fasson? Is it Shegun Olatunji? Is it Dayo Ayetan, right? And Nuruddin Akerushola and their lawyers? Is it Precious Eze? I mean, about, the arrest of journalism, or journalists, in the country. And if you were to put all of these, is a practice that has been giving the necessary support that it needs in allowing the bridge between the governed and the governments, to get together.
At an intro, for me, I would say that it's not really that journalism is under threat.
Okay.
It is actually that it's actually that ours rather than being prosecuted. Right? So it's being persecuted to the extent that cases are prosecuted judiciously and not being responsibly.
Right.
We are in nation crisis to an extent, and therefore the journalism should tend to help the people to have the right information and the right knowledge, not to create needless tension and needless crisis.
Understood. But if you also look at the government's handling of the issues that I mentioned, I can't go into all of these. There's quite a number of them right there, but and they're very recent. The government has maintained that the Cybercrimes Act is necessary to combat cybercrime and maintain national security. No arguing to that. However, critics have argued that the act is vague and it has been used to suppress free speech and intimidate journalists. That's where the brain of it is. And the government has also failed to provide adequate protection for journalists and has not addressed the concerns surrounding the act. But let's get into the place of safety of journalists in Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is considered one of the most dangerous countries for journalists in Africa. Nigeria, the giant of Africa, that is. And according to the Committee to Protect Journalists, that is the CPJ, at least 25 journalists have been killed in Nigeria since 1992. Now, journalists in Nigeria face various challenges, including harassment, intimidation, and violence. If you also take it, a notch higher, let's look at the global ranking of Nigerian journalism. According to the Reporters Without Borders, that is the RSF, Nigeria ranks 120 out of 180 countries in terms of press freedom. And then the WPFI also notes that Nigeria's ranking has declined in recent years due to increased harassment and, of course, intimidation of journalists. If you look at this, what I call it a report card now, would you say we're faring well? Or would you say that it is journalism in itself that is failing in the country?
Now, that's why I said we need to bring this into the concept of one who in Nigeria has his rights respected. But if we are to rate policemen, our policemen are possibly also the most killed across the world.
Right.
Our army are possibly going to rank very low in the amount of ambushes that we have recorded. Our students, school kidnapping is possibly one of the highest in the world. So a lot is wrong with us, and I think there is a system for now where everybody is in danger. I read a book long ago, I think written by what's the name now, 9 Sound. He said a nation in custody. I'm not sure that we have been out of that custody. Social or any particular group deep in the defense of fundamental human rights who are prosecuted, not persecuted. Now when we get that right, then of course the orientation should come on responsible professional conduct. Now, if there would have been no need for it, or if there were no cyber stalking and cyber bullying, if there were no hate speech, if there were no reporting that were absolutely wrong and false, to a large extent, when we give room to everybody's right, when every professional choose to become responsible. So even when you are accused, then you can get to the press and things can get done. The press for me shaped the opinion and determine a lot of things in the UK.
Right.
When UK lost their bid to host to host the World Cup, they went after FIFA executive, and you know that in this moment FIFA had not recovered from the barrage of attacks that they got from the somewhere there. He denied some, he could have given it, but when the press came for him, right? But that is different from creating sedition, right? That is different from outright lies. A lot of time here, because somebody wants to break news, they do not need their confirmation. So like what I'm saying is simple. When you do your job the right way, and we ensure that the rights of the individuals are protected and preserved, when we ensure that journalism ethics are kept, when you ensure that the journalist has the tools that he needed to do his job, not that he needed someone before I've been to forums where I expect that the publication should be right, but you see a photojournalist telling you that if you do not pay him an extra amount, then he is not going to ensure that your part of the presentation or your part of the activity reflects in the press. And even when these monies are paid, sometimes the activities still do not happen, and you cannot defend it because they are all restricted. So a lot of underhand activities within the press environment is also hampering the independence.
Are the people who run the system, or is the issue about some of the laws that have been put out there that actually negate? Let's have your 2 cents on this one as we look at a topical issue that is already in discourse, and that topical issue is about whether Nigeria's Cybercrimes Act is harming journalists. Is it a threat or not a threat? Right, 0907 353 0044 is that number to call. The other number to be considered, as Nigeria is considered one of the most dangerous countries, okay, ready to make from the profession in it.
in practice requires a lot of funding.
Right.
The question will be that are we actually putting the right funds in place? Because when the funding is not right, the tools cannot be, because that's the reality.
Which is ranked 23rd in the WPFI. It is known for its vibrant and independent press. South Africa has a strong tradition of investigative journalism. Now, away from South Africa, you might also want to consider Ghana. Ghana, which is also a West African country, is ranked 30th. In the WPFI, Ghana has a 178th. Okay, seems like